I'm looking, there's nobody new. I know we
Yeah,
haven't seen each other in a while.
we can do a quick hi if you want to do a round robin or set up the show.
Okay, you do that and I'll just go by boxes. Suzanne, say hi.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Suzanne Pearson, and I'm the associate for the transition unit for Access VR Central Office.
Perfect.
Nice to see you all.
Perfect. Kira.
Hi, good morning. I'm Kira Topaski, and I'm with the New York State Council on Developmental Disabilities.
Our thunder. Lindsay.
Hi, everyone. Lindsay Murphy, Disability Resource Coordinator for Monroe County at Rochester Works.
Miss Jennifer.
Good morning, everyone. Jen Geiger. I am the Business Relations Representative at the Rochester Access VR office. So good morning, everyone.
Mr. Turner.
Good morning, everyone. Rich Turner, Director of Workforce Development for the Rochester Technology and Manufacturing Association.
Perfect. Mr. Coslow.
Good morning, Lee Coslow with Rochester Works.
Simple. And Carrie.
Good morning, Carrie Martin, Youth Apprenticeship Coordinator with Rochester Technology Manufacturing Association.
Cool. And Brandy, then it's yours.
Hello, everybody. I'm Brandy Solomon, the Employment Project Coordinator for Advanced Apprenticeship with the University of Rochester's USED, Strong Center for Developmental Disabilities. So can you see my show? Are we good to go?
I'm not seeing anything.
Slide? Oh, no. Oh,
no.
Okay. Thank you. It's on my screen. I can see everything.
I hope so.
All right. Are we good?
Yeah, there it is. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Good morning. So this is our Advanced to Apprenticeship Rochester Regional Committee meeting, and we're going to give you some updates. Okay. So Pat is here. I'm here. Marilee sends her warm wishes. She is away today, and Shauna from the Center for Workforce Development should be joining us, but we'll keep rolling. So our fall classes at the Center for Workforce Development will end in January on January 28th. And we do have involvement with a welding student for this semester as well. And he is doing very well in welding. He actually is starting to look for entry-level welding positions. So definitely wanted to see if we could get him connected with you, Rich. And he's doing very well overall in the course. He had already had a strong interest in welding, had some items at his house in the garage that he would tinker with before he got into the course. So it's really been a good fit for him to expand his knowledge base and get work ready within the welding industry.
Does
So
he have
at
a
this,
resume?
what was that, Rich?
Does he have a resume?
Yes, he said he had given the resume on the night you all came out to Center for Workforce Development,
I
but
wasn't
I
out there
can,
that night.
okay, well, I'm gonna make sure it gets directly
Yeah,
to you. Awesome.
to make sure because it might have been Bob, and I mean we may have sent it already. I just don't know because we
Yeah,
don't. He's coming in this time of year, so
awesome. Well,
make sure
definitely
he
we'll
doesn't get
follow
lost in the
up.
shuffle.
Okay, we want to get them to the top of the list. So thank you. All right, for Center for Workforce Development, the spring courses, which we are currently recruiting for, are beginning in February and they'll go through June. We're continuing to work with the Center for Workforce Development manufacturing courses of welding and manufacturing technician, as well as machining. The courses continue to be in the evening to give people that opportunity. If they need to work during the day, they can upskill at night. And they all have associated tuition, which may be able to get offsetted by some of the grants and scholarships through the Center for Workforce Development or through Rochester Works. Or if a person has Access VR involvement, they may be able to tap into tuition assistance in that way. So at the Center for Workforce Development, there is a new program brewing. I was hoping Shauna would be here to give you her spill about it, but she's the director of CWD, and we have, through Advanced to Apprenticeship, a pilot project summary that we put together in order to give some of the background and details about Advanced to Apprenticeship to distribute and disseminate as people have been interested. And so Shauna got her hands on it and really went through it and was able to get an even better understanding of the elements of advanced to apprenticeship that really worked in the Mohawk Valley Community College area and ideas of how we could make the courses more robust at CWD by creating this bridge program that is before the person goes into the training program, whether it be manufacturing or another area, they're getting that opportunity to do soft skills development, have some industry specific academic gap instruction, depending on which one they want to go into, because this will truly be career exploration for a multitude of fields, which you see here: construction, manufacturing, education, healthcare, and transportation. So this is fresh off the pipe. We actually are going to do a presentation for the BOCES leaders tomorrow. And the hope is that a grant that Shauna and CWD went out for will be able to fund this initial process, but then looking to for collaborations and braiding of funding to make it continue forward. So career launch is on the way.
Brandy, if I could add,
Absolutely.
because I did take some notes from yesterday when Shauna was a part of our coalition meeting, and just to kind of give people perspective, especially to Rich, around the CMFGA concept.
Mhm.
That's where they were realizing, I think we all are realizing from doing this project for the years that we have, that manufacturers know about manufacturing, but nobody else does. And so the concept that is being driven home in career launch is making sure that students, whomever they are, right out of high school, young adults who are out of school youth, as the labor department calls them, or adults looking for a new career pathway, could learn a little bit more, as in what is supposed to happen in a pre-apprenticeship or a direct entry type model. And so the Mohawk Valley model with MACNY does that kind of stuff. And we are now we're excited to see that CWD is really looking to build the process where, as it says right here, that there would be soft skill development, but not a real, heavy duty emphasis on that. We can work with Lindsay and everybody, the DRC, to be able to pull that off. But the gap instruction too is not meant to be a heavy duty anything. It's meant to, again, show people the machines, look at the things that you need to know. How well are you measuring and using tools, those kinds of things, but actually put your hands on something. And then the career exploration would be engaging in actual tours and going places. So I could see RTMA, Rich, being very, influential in how that kind of process works. So should they be, when they are successful in securing the Department of Labor grant funds, they're going to be looking for all of you to be a part of this conversation moving forward. So it's pretty exciting I think, for the Rochester area. So keep your fingers crossed into the new year. We get some good news for them.
I'm so sorry, Patricia. I just got on here late, and I see that you're on career launch. So sorry that I got here a little late.
I hope I did it justice. I
heard the tail end because I just got on. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Say hi to everybody so they know who you are.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shauna from CWD. Sorry.
Great. You did such a good job yesterday, friend. I knew that, and I had all my notes.
Oh,
So
good. I'm so sorry about that.
no, that's okay. That's okay. I just
Okay.
reinforced what Brandy was saying. So does anybody
Okay.
have, since Shauna is on, does anybody have any questions for Shauna?
Exactly.
Rich, did I give you any hope for some cool new stuff to come out of there?
Always do. Yeah. I mean, I think some of the things that we're looking at, with the, with these types of programs, it's getting the employer part of it. I know when we did that one event, I think it was was it earlier this year in January, February? We do have some employer interest. So we just got to keep on, beating the drum. And, now that, we kind of had I'll say for the last few months, kind of like a slowdown, I would say, not a freeze, but kind of a slowdown in hiring. So now that we're getting, back into it, I know people are, closing out their year end. So hopefully starting at the beginning of the year that, we can start pushing the drum on this because we already had that one young man that we're working with over Jamestown Container. He kind of wasn't in this program. We kind of got pushed into it because he's in our pre-apprentice. He's in pre-apprenticeship, and I'm actually going to meet with him later this week. So interested to see how he's progressing and doing with everything.
So Rich, they actually had reached out to me. Does the gentleman's first name start with a Z?
Z? No.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's a different person then. So there is another person at Jamestown. So I'm going to be assisting HR with some job coaching for him and some self-advocacy. What?
You look at Jen or Kristen?
Jen.
Okay, I'm meeting with Jen on tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
I'll it's either tomorrow or Friday. I'm meeting with Jen, but I'll ask.
Okay, well, it's good that we have several people over there, right? Doing some great work.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tag Shauna one more time though, if I could, Brandy, just because yesterday you talked about the fact that you're planning to use work keys, and I'm not so sure everybody on the call, Shai, maybe Rich and our colleagues from the workforce board understand work keys. Could you just highlight the value of work keys to what you're anticipating would be a part of this program?
Sure. Brandy, do you want a tag team, or I don't know if were you asking for me or Brandy or either?
Oh yeah, no, yeah, all you, Shauna.
Okay. So we just became a testing center for work keys, and we're going to start using that as right now we use the TABE assessment as an entrance assessment, and that basically gives us a baseline of academic skills, like what someone's coming in with academically. And then if they score in a provisional range, then we suggest an academic support class for students. And then we help them to improve. It's a lot of math skills. So math skills, reading, writing, study skills, those types of things. So we'll help them pass their EPA test and, whatever it is that they're, that they might need some academic support with. And we are replacing the TABE with the work keys assessments. The value of using work keys over TABE is that the test for work keys, and maybe, I don't know if everybody already knows this, but the tests for work keys are applied math. So it's applied technical math, workplace documents, and graphic literacy. So the value as we see it is that it's also tied to ONET. So it tells you, you can do a job profiler and look up, for example, you could look up machinist and you can see what academic levels, are like somebody at a basic level of machining and then a middle level. I'm losing the word. And then maybe at an advanced level, of where they need to be academically. So what we're thinking of is that we will assess it at a baseline, and then it also has a curriculum that supports it, which is something that we love. Because then we can help people to improve let's say their math skills. If they start out at a level 3, they can improve their math skills, and hopefully we'll get them to a level where they will be more successful in their trade. And so we're really excited about that. And then, so that's with all of our classes, we would like to do that. So in all of these programs, like the Career Launch, that's why we want to use work keys assessments, because we want to help them advance their academic skills wherever they're at a baseline, help them to improve. And then they also get a credential called an NCRC. Sorry, my dogs are going to start barking. I'm not sure if you can hear that.
Nope.
But they also can get it what's called an NCRC, which is a National Career Readiness Credential, and they can get that at different levels. So there's the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum levels.
Yep.
And hopefully, like our employers in our area, that's why actually I have a meeting with Rich and Bob. I might like try to meet with them, because we'd like to get more employers to recognize at least the value of the NCRC, so that when they hire someone, or when they're, looking to hire, someone coming out of like an academic or an instructional program, they at least know like what academic foundations they're coming in with. And so we're trying to get more employers just to recognize the value of someone having a credential like that in this county. It's, there's a lot of employers like nationally that recognize that credential. So I think it's very exciting to think about the use of work keys here in this county. I know Oswego County is a work-ready community right now. So in Oswego County, it's definitely like something that is much more known right now. Genesee County is making a lot of headway. Chris Swaz and his team out there have been really like doing a lot of work with schools and with employers, to get people on board. So it's really like it's a county-wide effort here.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Shauna?
I could go on and on.
No. But I'm going to also quickly share. Yesterday, we had a coalition meeting with other folks around our state, but also nationally, that are engaged and supporting pre-apprenticeship opportunities in manufacturing, that also offer opportunities to people with disabilities to be part of that workforce. And they quickly, easily all supported each other with the concept that businesses know what's going on, but the support system of that, it helps the worker stay in their job, learn about these things, doesn't know enough about this. And I'm thinking of you, Jen, and your VR counselors also perhaps being interested in needing to hear some of the stuff that Sean is just talking about to help them. That's not what typical VR counselors get told about, if you will. And if they have time left in their busy schedule, they might be able to read something that gets them there. But maybe there's also an opportunity for you to, with the businesses that already work with VR, to be engaged in this if they're not already. And I apologize if I'm speaking the given, but I just, from listening to those businesses say, like Rich says quite often, hey, this is what goes on and nobody knows about it. They were very clearly telling us as part of the project that we need to think about how to teach job coaches and school counselors and moms and dads about the value and how all these other things fit together, so that you can actually create a real career path, not just stops along a road while you're figuring out what you want to do. So they encouraged us to talk about that some more. So hence the reason I'm bringing it up now. So, okay. Thank you, Shauna. Unless anybody else has any other thoughts around this, I'm excited. You'll let us know if you get the funding, and we'll celebrate with you.
I have a quick question about the accommodations. Can accommodations be provided to individuals with disabilities while they're taking, in order to have the assessment, the work keys? How does that work? Like a separate location, extra time, a reader, or other maybe technology aids? Just curious. Thanks.
Yeah, and I wonder, I know it has accommodation, it has more accommodations than the TABE. We have not started we just became a testing site, so we have not started administering yet. So we're still learning. I don't know everything about all the accommodations, but I do know that it has more than the TABE offers right now. There's also like another version with accommodations, like another version of the assessments. And our assistant director just mentioned that to me yesterday. So we have to look into that and learn more about it. But I wonder if Rochester Works, because Rochester Works has been using this for a while. Do you guys know Lindsay or Lee or um I don't know if Jen would even know.
Well, Shauna, what's the question we're answering here?
Accommodations for work keys for students with special needs or
Yes.
like with an IEP.
So what's been allowed has been time and a half or double time. I don't know that that's changed, but I believe those are the only accommodations that are allowed, or at least used to be allowed. I don't know if it's changed at all.
Yeah, I can find out, Susan, though. If I can
No, I'm just
certainly find
so
out.
it's
Yeah.
not matching. It's not matching the student's needs then in a sense because they could have additional accommodation needs. So you're not referring to the student's individualized education program. I'm just curious what your conversations have been with school districts and with students with special in the special education department. You know, if there's other options besides double time. Thanks.
Yeah, it might have, I'm assuming it would have test red. I'm assuming that we would try to make accommodations if they needed a separate location. But yeah.
I think this is a work in progress, is what I'm hearing, and that all the better for everybody to connect. So, Suzanne, if we need to think about that with people that build these tools, remember, many of the time, often these tools were built not with anybody thinking that there would be a diverse learning, you know, need type of thing. So I know Tooling U has opened its mind and its way of doing business more and more as it's recognized the diversity in its student body too. So, I wouldn't be surprised that this is a conversation that has to be continued and ongoing and teaching as we go along. So who better than a good teachers like you guys?
Yeah, understood. I'm just
Yeah.
I haven't done any research myself on it, but I was just
Yeah.
curious to ask the question. Thanks.
I
Perfect.
can also share with the group. I can as a follow-up if you'd like. But
Yeah.
I used to be the test coordinator for, our school and did all the industry-based assessment, accommodations. So I'm very familiar with all the accommodations and like all the varieties of assessments in terms of like, because you got your NOCTI assessments, and then you have like, and I'm talking industry based, and then you have like EPA assessments, which is a real like, so I think there's a way that sometimes tests have things built in terms of accommodations. And then sometimes like the testing site, we're just trying to make accommodations based on like staffing that we have, space that we have. So I think we always like try to do the best that we can to provide all the accommodations that that the test allows. But I can certainly share all of that.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. See, it was perfect timing, Shauna. Not a problem. Look at you.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Okay.
So, Advanced to Apprenticeship has been on the road. November was National Apprenticeship Month, and MACNY was able to host the A2A graduation at Mohawk Valley Community College. They did invite our Rochester graduate to come down as well. So it was a great time. And then we presented for the Association of University Centers for Disability in DC on November 4th. Marilee and I did a poster presentation, and we got a lot of great engagement with understanding more about pre-apprenticeship and other states being interested in seeing what they can do for their own people who need support. And we were also able to have people get a first look, I should say, at the Advanced to Apprenticeship pilot project summary paper, which is now available and talks about a summary of the project as well as cohort 1. And then on November 14th, Pat and Franca and I were in Saratoga Springs for the, oh my goodness, Continuing Education Association of New York. And that was a great conference as well to be able to talk about how Advanced to Apprenticeship came to be, our cohort 1 results to our colleagues across New York State. So both a national conversation as well as an in-state conversation happened in the month of November. Pat, did you want to add anything?
No, I just think that it was fun to be among other educators who are at a community college level for the most part. It is indeed the road that MACNY has been pursuing, and we are not just in Mohawk Valley and Rochester now. We are actually at Cortland Community College and Oswego Community College looking to take Real Life Rosies, which is another direct entry program for women in manufacturing, to those campuses. And then fingers crossed, like Shauna, if we are able to get some of the funding that has been applied for, we will be able to move a true advanced to apprenticeship model to those 2 campuses and more around the state. So you will be able to say, you knew us when we first started. So thank you all for always being a part of the conversation. So
thank you. So Pat kind of already talked about the roundtable we had for the statewide collaboration for accessible apprenticeships, and really pre-apprenticeship coalition is what we're affectionately calling it. And it was great to have representation not only from MACNY, but also FALA, Uniquely Abled, SUNY Auster, SUNY Hudson Valley, as well as YAMTAP, which is local to Rochester. And we had a presentation by David Hoff and his colleague Mary from UMass USAID, who is really looking at pre-apprenticeship across really the nation, right, Pat? And coming up with the findings of where those pitfalls are and how we can really collaborate and work better to make this more robust. Because I learned that apprenticeship is something that is huge in Europe and in other nations, but in America, like, we really need to continue to grab it and hold on tight, as it is a workforce development process like no other.
Well, I think we also, the conversation, I sort of took it there myself, was the idea that once again, we use language that is not comparable to each other. In the apprenticeship world, we talk about someone serving as an intermediary, which in the rehabilitation world is what we call case management. We talk about pre-apprenticeship and creating, related training instruction in apprenticeship, which in the rehabilitation world is what under Office of People with Developmental Disabilities would call pre-vocational services. And in VR, we would call it pre-ETS or pre-employment training. The problem is that we are not doing an adequate job helping the people that work in both of those areas to understand each other's languages. And so it takes a lot longer sometimes for the individual who could be succeeding in any one of these areas because our own systems are not talking to each other. So we're accepting that challenge as we move forward in our last year of the project to reinforce that, coming better together with language and understanding each other, or not, and just agreeing that this is what is and this is what it isn't, and we'll get there somehow or another. Because I think there's interest, there's energy. We've got to make sure the system's aligned, though, and that's what I think our team is now thinking about. How do we do that for our folks that want to work in manufacturing and don't want our systems to get in the way?
So I think I have a couple of just quick questions. Part of it being just kind of the teacher, and then also now kind of shifting to a manufacturing role. I think some of like the confusion is I think when you look at like a classroom, for example, we all share common knowledge around like RTI, related instruction, or um, the supports that we might provide to students. And I think when you look at an employer, for example, if they get this whole long list of, this one program calls a job coach this, and the next program calls it this, and then this student. So I almost wonder if there's a way, and again, I'm trying to just kind of catch up with everything that's, been shared. Is there a way to almost bring people together to say this is common language so that when, for example, someone like myself or Rich go to a business and say, we have this particular person that is working in this particular program, these are all the things that they need. It's a common understanding for them as to what that person is or isn't, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
we can make the recommendation, my friend. Somewhat of the dilemma or the challenge is that different funding mechanisms have coined different phrases. And so then the trick is to help, I think personally, and this is Pat Dowsett talking, the people that maneuver it, like yourselves, like how do you be the interpreter for the words that are there so that a business doesn't basically say, well, when you get your act together, come back and see me.
Right.
Which we know that happens. And Jen can attest to that from the years that she's been doing job development on the VR side. There are businesses that will accept, and there are others that just say, figure it out. And when you get it figured out, come back and see me. But otherwise, I'm too busy doing my work that, so, and that's not to say we are not going to keep trying, Carrie, but indeed, you've caught, that is hitting, as the saying goes, nail on the head. There is too many, everybody, the Medicaid system does it one way, VR has to do it one way based on what is policy, and they're given direction by federal entities, all that kind of stuff. And then we have these job coaches, then VR counselors that are trying to maneuver all around it all. And then go to an HR department and ask them to understand it all at the same time. It's kind of interesting. Okay. Suzanne's putting something in the chat. You want to highlight that, friend? Go ahead.
So, our federal funding, which Pat kind of chimed in on, we have I put in the chat a guidance, so a transition guide to post-secondary education and employment for students and youth with disabilities, and it was last updated, August of 2020. So that's what we are sharing with our vendors. And I just did a quick Control F search for job coach. It's in that document. So just trying to respond to Carrie's, what are we using, what terminology we're using, and so this is a potential. If you put it under your pillow at bedtime, you might absorb it all. It's a thick read, but it is, if, I love the Control F function because you can look for periods, you can look, so it's the direction from the Office of Special Education, the federal, our federal, and RSA, our federal funding sources on terminology. And there's a glossary, but again, I hear what you're all saying. There, people create their own terminology as well. So, but we have, one of my colleagues created a Pat up in Malone, 500, I think, word acronym document back in, when the transition units first started back in 2014. Yeah. So it does change, but thanks for your consideration.
Well, and I just wanted to add something that, yes, language is important and it, gets confusing, but I'll sort of attest to Lindsay and myself. We've been doing a lot of business education series, and I think what is vital is always that relationship building. And so we're continuously building those relationships with employers so they have those go-to people. So I briefly was sharing Jamestown Container. There's an individual that is going to need some additional supports. And so Jen knows me. She reached out to me hey, Jen, so now we're Team Jen here working to support, this person to be successful in work. And so that's where, again, relationship building is so important on the business side because, yes, we know that businesses, they may not have taken disability classes, or it's like this lingo, it's like confusion. But that way, Lindsay and myself want those businesses to know, like, hey, I have a question, who can I go to? And that's been tremendous. Again, we've been offering in-person trainings, webinars, so just a wide variety. So I'm just gonna stop speaking of that. But again, I think partnerships, just like, partnerships with this program, and it's just across the board, those relationships are important.
Yep, absolutely. And we won't lose sight of that as all of us on the rehab side focus with Department of Labor to look at the state of New York is now under an employment first executive order, which means that people who identify as having a disability, the first service and support or opportunity that they're supposed to be given is that to go to work and have a career. So we might actually, Carrie, be able to look at some of that stuff as we move forward with the state agencies in partnership together, because one could argue from the other side of the fence, as I do, that even the state agencies sometimes need to rethink their language so that they're working better together. And VR has that lead quite often and also gets their fingers shooken at them all the time. Why don't you do more of this? And why don't you do more of that? And meanwhile, everybody should just be sitting together and figuring it out. So I'm hopeful under this new executive order and having the chief disability officer in charge of looking at all those things with the agencies, we might actually come to a better understanding, and including labor and businesses will be the key. And that is the first time in a long time that's happening in the state of New York. And I've been here a long time doing this. So probably one of the oldest ones on the call. I can attest to that. So what else
Thank
we got,
you.
Brandy? What else
All
we got?
right. So pretty much wrapping up here. So we always have our call to action to continue to promote. And I thank everyone, especially you all who reach out to me directly to make sure you have the latest and greatest. We will be sending our spring flyer for Center for Workforce Development, along with the details of this meeting. And I kept our demographic survey a part of this presentation because if anyone was new, I wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to know that this is something that we do in response to our funders needing that data to know how far our reach is, not only for the people that we support through the program, but also our advisors. And I think we've pretty much been doing our thoughts for advisors as we've been going along. But if there are any more questions or thoughts, please let us know. I did want to make sure. So if you do have any thoughts and questions, we can go into that now. And then I was going to show you a couple of the things that will be coming your way.
I have a quick question for Shauna, real quick.
Yeah. No, you don't think you have a half hour, Carrie. You can
So what happens is a lot of the time I like process and it all comes together. So trying to better understand like the work keys. So is it that you're looking for the recognition from the county employers, everybody, that it's almost the same thing as the foundational skills that they would need to enter into a workforce? Or is it similar to like a bachelor's kind of thing? So when employers look at, I'm just trying to figure out when we say recognize,
Yeah.
is it more like from a college level or is it more from fundamental basic coursework?
It could be either.
Okay.
Just because they do have it at different levels.
Okay.
So it's basically it's recognizing so it's recognizing that it is a credential that gives you more information about a person that's becoming employed there. So it's recognizing that are different levels of that credential. So like a bronze level, and I don't know if there's anything that like equates like level of education really, but it's more like that it's tied to the certain occupation. So like if somebody's like at a platinum level, like there's occupations that are aligned to maybe someone who scores at a platinum level. Like at a
Okay.
platinum level, they're saying like that you could do 95% of the jobs that are available. Like you could do, let me see if I have I have a slide
Okay, because I
that
know
I
that there
could
are
show you.
some, and again, just coming on in July, it's been literally
Yeah.
like rapid fire of just learning everything
Yep.
about workforce. And I
Yep.
know that there are some companies that will have their own
Let me share.
math assessment that they might
Yeah.
ask for
Yeah.
people to complete. And
Yep.
I'm just wondering how that might fit into something like the work keys. If we have a student or a person that comes in,
Mm-hmm.
how might that then align with what the company, or is it more or less that conversation of, okay, this is what we see you're asking, how do they mirror each other, or how can we match them, if that makes sense?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great question.
it is. I would love to like share more of this because you have that educational like side of things too. Like I would love to like have even talk to you more about this. I know that I was going to talk to Bob and Rich about it as well, but I mean, can you see my screen right
Yeah.
here? I just
Yeah.
shared the screen.
And I
So,
think a lot of it
yeah.
too, for me, just side note, is just coming from
Mm-hmm.
that education background. I
Yeah.
really truly believe in us preparing our kids, but I think it's the one thing I've now learned being on the other side of it is
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's the relationship building and all of that. And I understand that's a huge part, but I also think it's how do we make it simple and not as complex for an employer so that when we go in, we're the one taking the brunt of that, if you know what I
Yep.
mean? So
Yep.
that
Yep. Yep.
they're only having to get them in there and we say, oh, this is what this is what this is, and then they can reach out when they need support, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, no, I would, there's this chart.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds
Can you
me
see?
of the way in which decisions are made, and you're all going to laugh, but it's the way Pat's brain processes things. When kids get belts in karate,
Yeah.
they move up in colors, and sometimes I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so what did they do to get that next belt?
Ah,
Well, they had to
yeah.
actually get better at, increase something, their capacity to maintain or stay on track, I mean, that kind of stuff. And in some ways, I think work keys builds people's stamina and
Mm-hmm.
interest and capacity and problem solving. And so as you keep, like you said, and you get to that platinum level and they're saying 95% of the
Or
jobs, it doesn't mean they're going to be
96. Yeah.
proficient,
Yeah.
but
Right.
it means they have the capacity to then
Yes.
be taught. And whether then they go pre-apprenticeship or they go apprenticeship is
Mm-hmm.
based on that level of proficiency that a business might want to take on. So, I mean, I see work keys, and I've heard that work keys helps to actually encourage businesses to see that they
Mm-hmm.
can and will be successful in training apprentices if they come with that kind of a background. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for Rochester to be a part of that process, like other places are doing it
Mm-hmm.
already. So
Yeah. Yeah, like for example, one of our teachers that taught our manufacturing tech program just got hired at Fairlife in Webster.
nice.
And so I'm like, Kevin, I really want to talk to you about this because he's creating a training program right now at Fairlife. And they're just starting out. So as you're creating this workforce, at a company like Fairlife, I think for him to use this or for them to use this in their HR, in their hiring, like they have a good idea then of like what someone's coming in with so that they know
Mhm.
how, like then he knows how to tailor their training and how to develop that person and then also like what they're capable of in terms of advancement.
Yep.
So it's just like I love it. Like I love it like from an educational standpoint, like for us, because I can see it like being so valuable. Like right now they give ACTs and SATs to everybody. Like both of my kids, my son and my daughter, right? My daughter's 17, my son is 20. I was like, no, you don't need to take the SATs and ACTs. Like, they both went the career and tech route. They both like have, um, pursued the trades. Um, But would I like them to take a work keys assessment? 100%. I would like them to take a work keys assessment because it is a predictor of your success in a workplace, while the ACTs and the SATs are a predictor of your success in college. So like right now we think it's fine. Like we give everyone in high school the opportunity to do the ACTs and SATs. Why not give everyone the opportunity to do a work keys assessment that is all aligned to careers?
Well, and how about moving that bar when we say everyone, we really in our school systems don't give everyone, because we tend to leave the kids out that have the IEP pathways, and indeed perhaps some of them actually with a work keys assessment could be very successful at things that we never even anticipated. So I challenge all of our school districts, and I'm a school board member, so I'm constantly asking my superintendent, what are we doing for the kids with the IEP pathways? But too often, you know, it doesn't trickle all the way down. So let's challenge ourselves within this project to make sure that we're at least giving a few more people of the everyone's that we all use in our language to actually do that. That's where Suzanne bumped in and said, what's the accommodations? Let's ask those questions. Are we making sure that language interpretation is also a part of it? So many of us have school districts in our regions that are now supporting communities of foreign language students as their first language, or maybe, and especially in Rochester, you have a huge community of people who are deaf, blind, and hard of hearing. And, how are we making sure that people, that our students who fit in that are also being exposed? We have an agency, I'm aware of an agency on Long Island that has a VR contract to support people who are deaf, and they are working with one business, a manufacturing business that uses some very loud machines. And guess who their employees are? They're all people who are deaf, because it makes sense. I mean, you kind of giggle when you think about it, but the reality is that as long as the supervisors and everybody else know how to, present and talk about what needs to be talked about with sign language, they're good as gravy. So, thinking outside the box and looking for new ways to try different things. And I think you're right, Shauna, and I applaud everything that you're talking about, that the work keys is that cool assessment tool that might be able to bridge some of those gaps between the, kids with different academic capacity, and realizing that they too can be successful in just about any job if they know what they're up to. So
Shauna, does that then mean that this is something that can be brought down to, and I only ask again, coming more from element, I think of it as like that, that career, when you're in high school, they get the counseling office gives that career, what one fits best.
Interest
I almost wonder if that, and I think applying this way to see what would over time, if kids are exposed to this earlier on, by the time they get to high school and or graduate, what is I hate using the word success rate, but what is the success rate for then those students who have already been exposed to this at a younger age, now are seniors, graduating, becoming adults, being able to go into pre-apprenticeship? What is that? How does that support over long term help them to then be able to get into a job successfully, because they've had extra, it may not just be within a year or within a month, but if they have that ability over, say, 4 years, how does this work then, knowing it's a curriculum? And does that mean having to build out the curriculum to cover a wider range? Is that something that work keys can do? Do you know?
It's not really, from what I know, it's not really like for the lower grade levels. But, and so state ed, the CDOS standards, they're supposed to be K-12, right? So your CDOS standards are supposed to cover K-12. I see this as more of a, like, I don't even know if I would do it in like ninth grade. I would, like I said, I envision this being, and I think in most places it's being used in like high school 10th grade, 11th grade,
Yeah.
like when people are starting to like really like hone in on like what do I want to do? But what you're saying is like so important because we really need to. I don't know why we got away from like teaching to the C. I was a business teacher too, so you're like right in my, so and a CTE teacher. So I mean, really the CDOS standards are supposed to be K-12. We're supposed to be doing career planning. It K-12,
Yep.
every
Yep.
single grade level, you're supposed to be doing career planning. And it doesn't get done. I know it doesn't get done. We do not have enough, career exploration at the elementary level and middle school level. I mean, that's why we're doing summer camps. That's why we do like summer camps for middle school students because they just don't have enough. And I could totally go on and on because, like, my husband's a tech teacher. There's a shortage of tech teachers. He's been teaching a 1.2 for the past 3 years because they don't have enough tech teachers. So if you don't have enough tech teachers and business teachers and, CTE teachers in middle school, they're definitely not getting enough career exploration. They're not even getting tools put in their hands.
And
Right. So
Suzanne, I know like we have probably a couple more minutes, but I'm just thinking, Suzanne, if you want to do like a quick, like I'm just thinking our pre-ET services that we provide. So I don't want to like, I don't know if you could summarize it quick, Suzanne, because I'm sure we could do that in like a whole presentation, but just emphasizing VR's career exploration and other services.
That being said, I'm gonna jump in on Suzanne, and I think we would love to. I'm gonna bully this in the sense that we'd love to set up another time to do that versus trying to squeeze it into 7 minutes of conversation and actually talk some more about this. Because I was going to tease Kira and say, Kira, sounds like a great 5-year project that the CDD might want to think about. Here you have some energized people in Rochester to kind of build it and look at it. But the businesses themselves, while I want with pre-ET's talking about people being taught about, what is there, if they don't understand manufacturing. So there's some real pieces to this that I think we also heard from the folks on the coalition yesterday that said that, Frank Falladin said he's not going to do steps anymore. He wants to give it to the community college because he has to figure out how to find, as Kerry was Shauna was just saying, the tech teachers, the business, we have to find the people that want to teach and understand how to teach kids that have multiple learning disabilities and learning challenges. So Brandy, I'd like to table this conversation at this point but bring everybody back. Let's figure out, let's have a meeting with Shauna and Carrie to see what is needed and necessary, and maybe invite everybody to come back just to focus on this conversation versus an advisory meeting that was the intent behind this, and get Jen and everybody together. So if you'll indulge us, I think we'd love to schedule another time to literally talk about this, whether maybe it's face-to-face in Rochester with you, Brandy, facilitating it, but I think to try to squeeze it into 7 minutes, 5 minutes left on the hour to keep people true to their own schedules, I would prefer to do that. Would you be up for that, Brandy, with me?
Yes, we can work on that. I do want to acknowledge the chat. So we did have a question in there about some of the barriers resulting in low enrollment in Rochester. And I know I probably could answer that with Shauna, but I definitely know that some of the themes that we have seen are in relation to that tape testing and funding. So yes, there are different opportunities out there to tap into some tuition funding, but not for everybody. And I think some people are self-selecting themselves out by knowing that there is an assessment and not even wanting to try it, or after they've tried it, if they didn't score where they wanted to, not really wanting to go through that process again. So with exposure earlier and sooner, the hope is that like tools like WorkKeys are getting people more direct career related assessment versus an adult basic education that can have applicability, but also isn't really honing in exactly where a person needs to be in order to be ready for their career. So
Will Career Launch have a fee to it, Shauna, or is the intent for it to be free to participants?
We're if I get that DOL grant, then it will be free. We're
Okay.
also presenting to PPS. Brandy and I are presenting to PPS tomorrow, and so we're just going to pitch the concept of this for in-school students. And so if it were something that we're in school, we're trying to make it like a transition program offering so that districts would pay. So, that's kind of what we're hoping for. So we're hoping that it will be free. But
Okay. And I saw Lindsay put in the ongoing issue of transportation is a unique need, but I think at some point in the future, if y'all haven't heard about the 1115 waiver and the ability to support individuals' transportation needs through the 1115 waiver in your area, that's the nugget to take away from this conversation at the top of the hour. So we would be certainly willing to share. I can share any of that information. If you're not familiar with it, just send me a quick note and I will help you understand it. But there is a lot of work happening and a lot of dollars being dedicated. Now, are there vans and buses and whatever to help people? I don't know, but it also allows people to take city buses, and you guys are, at least in the city proper, have your buses. I know once you get further out, it's a little bit more difficult, like any region of our state, where when it's in the city, everything's cool. But as soon as you get a little bit further out into the burbs, the transportation becomes an ongoing issue. But we will always be fighting that no matter what, no matter where you go in this country, everybody's talking about transportation. So, Lindsay, not to be to put it down, but I don't know. We don't got the answer. Even at the state level, they don't got the answer yet. So we'll keep trying.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because I know I've tried to, promote this to individuals, but getting out to Center for Workforce Development has been an issue for some folks.
Okay. Got it. Oh, so with the actual location of where the classes are for Shauna to understand. Okay, I get it. I apologize. Not being in Rochester, I needed that extra stuff. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you. Okay. All right. Brandy, I think we'll close out this meeting with the promise to talk more about what we were just talking with Shauna and Carrie about, figuring out ways to think about that in a different way and bring that information. The first of the year is when all the advocacy starts happening, and it is a function of our project to make sure that we are always asking the right questions and posing the right needs. So thank you all. You know where we are. If there's any other thoughts or things that you come across that we should know about for the good of the project, but also for the work that you do, we are partners in this in Rochester, and we look forward to continuing to work with you for what we've got. How many more months of our project here, Brandy, just to kind of give us a sense of that?
A little over a year.
A little over a year. So we're still with you, and we hope you'll stick with us in 2025 as we move forward in creating more opportunities all along the way for people to find careers in manufacturing. So thank you again for your support, and we have a happy holiday, and we'll see you in 2025.
Happy holidays, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.